John Wayne was more than just a Hollywood actor. He was a symbol of America's love for the Wild West, courage, and strength. For decades, he played the cowboy who never backed down, the soldier who never gave up, and the man who always stood tall, no matter the challenge. People saw him as tough on screen, but many also felt a personal connection to him off-screen. He was admired by fans across the world, and his movies are still watched today. But when John Wayne passed away in 1979, at the age of 72, the spotlight shifted from his movie career to something deeply personal, his estate and inheritance. Behind the cameras and cowboy hats, there was a man with 3 marriages, 7 children, and a fortune that many believed would cause fights after his death. His life was full of stories, but his will and the division of his wealth became another chapter in the saga of John Wayne. People expected scandals, arguments, and drama among his family members because history has shown that big inheritances often lead to big conflicts. The story of what really happened, however, is as fascinating as any of his movies, and it shows us that even legends face challenges after their final curtain call, before becoming a household name. John Wayne was born Marion Morrison in 1907. In Winterset, Iowa, he wasn't born into wealth or fame. In fact, his family had very little money. Growing up, Wayne learned the values of hard work and determination. His big break into Hollywood didn't come easily. In his early years, he worked odd jobs, including moving props and working behind the scenes on movie sets. Wayne first appeared in small, unnoticed roles. But his big moment came in 1939 when he starred in That film, launched his career as a leading man, and started a journey that would make him a Hollywood icon. Over the years, Wayne starred in more than 170 films, with titles like True Grit, The Searchers, and The Alamo cementing his place in movie history. He was not just an actor, but also a producer and director, which increased his influence in Hollywood. His tough guy persona and commanding voice made him stand out, and audiences loved watching him on screen. With fame also came wealth. By the time he reached the peak of his career, Wayne had earned millions of dollars, owned properties, and built an image that few could match. This wealth and status would later form the foundation of his estate, the very estate that became the subject of attention after his death. Behind the strong and fearless image of John Wayne was a man who had a complicated family life. Wayne was married 3 times during his lifetime. His first marriage was to Josephine Scenes, with whom he had 4 children. This marriage lasted for more than a decade, but eventually ended in divorce. His second marriage, to Esperanza Bohr, was troubled and ended quickly, with many reports of fights and disagreements. His third marriage, to Pilar Pallet, brought 3 more children into his life. This gave Wayne a total of 7 children from his 3 marriages. Although his marriages didn't always last, his children remained central to his life, and they would later play important roles when his inheritance was divided. Wayne was known to be affectionate with his kids, though his career often kept him away from home for long periods. He also had close friendships, and was admired by co-stars, which added to his circle of influence. Having such a large family and being a wealthy celebrity made many people believe that his will would cause tension. After all, dividing a fortune between 7 children and 3 former wives is never simple. While Wayne tried to take care of everyone, the reality of inheritance is that no one can be fully satisfied. His personal relationships shaped not only his life, but also the future of his estate after he was gone. Despite his tough image on screen, John Wayne faced serious health challenges in real life. In 1964, he was diagnosed with lung cancer and had to undergo surgery to remove one of his lungs. While he continued working and acting after the surgery, his health was never the same. By the late 1970s, his condition worsened, and he was later diagnosed with stomach cancer. Wayne's declining health made him think more seriously about the future of his family and his wealth. Unlike some celebrities who leave behind confusion and legal battles, Wayne made careful plans for his estate. He prepared a will with the help of lawyers, making sure that his children and loved ones were included. However, even with a will, inheritance matters can become complicated. Wayne spent his final days surrounded by family and close friends, and despite his illness, he remained strong in spirit. He died on June 11, 1979, leaving behind not only a grieving family but also questions about how his wealth and possessions would be divided. His death was a huge loss for Hollywood, and tributes poured in from around the world. Yet at the same time, lawyers and family members were preparing to deal with the financial and legal side of his passing, which became another story in itself. When John Wayne's will was read in Los Angeles, it became clear that he had left behind a fortune estimated at more than $7 million, a very large amount at the time. His will showed how much thought he had given to his family and how carefully he had tried to divide his wealth. Each of his 7 children received a share, ensuring that they were financially supported. His third wife, Pilar Pallet, also received support, even though their marriage had faced difficulties. Interestingly, Wayne's second wife, Esperanza, was left out of the will entirely, which raised eyebrows. This decision suggested that Wayne wanted to make clear choices about who would benefit from his fortune. He also left money to charity, showing that he wanted his legacy to go beyond just his family. While some expected major fights or public scandals, the family managed to handle the inheritance with fewer battles than many had predicted. Still, dividing wealth among so many people is never free of tension, and there were quiet disagreements about whether everyone got their fair share. The will also reflected Wayne's personality, practical, direct, and focused on taking care of business. Even in death, he was like the characters he played, firm, decisive, and leaving no doubt about where he stood. More than 30 years after his death, John Wayne's name once again made headlines, but this time it was not for his movies or his will. In 2011, many of his personal items were auctioned, and fans from around the world rushed to own a piece of history. Items like his cowboy hats, boots, film costumes, and even letters were sold for thousands of dollars. For example, the eye patch Wayne wore in True Grit, the film that won him an Academy Award, sold for an impressive amount. His signature cowboy hat and belt buckles were also in high demand. Collectors and fans didn't just see these items as clothing or accessories. They saw them as treasures that carried the spirit of John Wayne. The auction revealed how deeply he had influenced people and how his image still held value decades after his death. For his family, it was another reminder of his lasting impact. As people were willing to pay large sums just to own something that had once belonged to him, the auction wasn't only about money, it was about memories, admiration, and the power of legacy. It showed that even after all the inheritance had been settled, John Wayne's presence in people's hearts was still strong and unshakable. John Wayne's legacy is more than just money, auctions, or legal documents. His true legacy lies in the values he represented and the impact he had on popular culture. Wayne stood for courage, resilience, and determination, qualities that people admired in his characters and often connected to the real man himself. His influence went beyond movies. He became a symbol of American strength and pride. Even today, his films are watched by new generations, and his quotes are remembered. Streets, schools, and even airports bear his name, keeping his memory alive. His family has also worked to honor him through foundations and charities, including cancer awareness programs, since Wayne himself battled the disease. This shows that his wealth was not just about material possessions, but also about continuing a mission that helped others. The way people still speak of him with respect proves that his worth cannot be measured only in dollars. While his inheritance was important, his reputation, character, and contribution to cinema are what truly keep his name alive. In many ways, John Wayne's greatest gift to the world was not his fortune, but the inspiration he left behind. Looking back at John Wayne's life, one can see that he was a man of many layers. He was a father, a husband, a Hollywood icon, and a symbol of strength. His will showed that he cared about his family and wanted them to be taken care of, but his legacy went far beyond the money he left behind. The auction of his belongings, decades later, proved that people still wanted to feel close to him. and they were willing to spend thousands to own a piece of his history. But in the end, his greatest inheritance was not wealth or possessions. It was the inspiration, values, and courage he gave to millions of fans. John Wayne taught people to face life with strength, to never give up, and to stand tall in difficult times. His story reminds us that while money and inheritance are important, the most valuable legacy anyone can leave is the way they touched the lives of others. For John Wayne, that legacy continues to shine, long after his last ride into the sunset. John Wayne's career is often described as one of the most successful in Hollywood history. Unlike many actors who shine briefly and then fade away, Wayne's popularity lasted for decades. From the late 1930s to the 1970s, he was one of the most bankable stars in the world. His ability to play strong, heroic characters made him the perfect choice for westerns and war films. Movies like The Searchers, Rio Bravo, and Sands of Iwo Jima became classics, and Wayne himself became a household name. In 1969, his performance in True Grit finally won him an Academy Award for Best Actor, proving that critics recognized his talent as much as audiences did. Beyond acting, Wayne also worked as a director and producer, taking control of his projects to make sure they carried his vision. This business side of his career helped him grow his wealth even further. But what made Wayne unique was not just the roles he played, but the way people connected with him personally. He wasn't just acting, he seemed to embody the values of bravery, loyalty, and determination. People admired him because he represented something larger than entertainment. He became a cultural figure, someone who stood for the spirit of America itself. That larger-than-life reputation added to the interest in his estate when he passed away, because it was not just about money, it was about what this symbol of strength left behind. The financial side of John Wayne's life. John Wayne may have been a cowboy on screen, but off-screen he was also a businessman who made smart financial choices. Unlike some stars who spent money recklessly, Wayne invested in properties, businesses, and other ventures that secured his fortune. He owned ranches, real estate, and even had stakes in movie production companies. His careful planning allowed him to build a fortune worth millions of dollars, which was significant in the 1970s. However, his wealth also came with responsibilities. Supporting 3 marriages and 7 children was not cheap, and Wayne had to make sure his estate was planned in a way that balanced family needs. It is said that he was very practical about money. He lived a grand life, but he was not known for wild spending. His financial discipline ensured that his family would be provided for even after his passing. This also explains why his estate did not collapse into chaos like that of other celebrities. He had prepared well, using lawyers and advisors to make sure everything was documented. While no estate division is perfect, Wayne's financial planning showed the same toughness and focus that he brought to his film roles. This financial legacy added another layer to his reputation, not just as a movie hero, but also as a man who thought about the future, comparing Wayne's inheritance to other celebrities. One reason John Wayne's will became so interesting to fans in the public was because many other Hollywood stars left behind messy estates. For example, when Elvis Presley died in 1977, just 2 years before Wayne, his estate went through years of legal battles and financial struggles. Similarly, celebrities like Marilyn Monroe and Judy Garland left behind complicated situations that caused pain to their families. In contrast, Wayne's estate, while not perfect, was more organized and less chaotic. This comparison makes his story even more fascinating because it shows that even a superstar with 3 marriages and 7 children could leave behind a relatively clear will. People often expect drama when large sums of money are involved. And sometimes, the drama comes true. But Wayne's case showed that careful planning could reduce conflict. Of course, there were still disagreements among family members, but nothing compared to the public scandals seen in other estates. This is another reason why his inheritance story continues to be discussed today. It is not just about money. It is about how a legendary figure managed his life and his wealth differently than others in Hollywood. For fans and historians, it adds to his image as a man who lived with